And anytime you start something new, you're going to suck at it. It doesn't matter whether it's starting a new business, trying to get fit, or just learn a new skill, you're going to suck. But if you keep doing that thing, you're going to start to suck less and less and less until eventually you become pretty good. All right, welcome to the Get Legit Show. This is the show for the people that choose to say no to being average, that want to get in the best shape of their life, build a better business, make more money, have better relationships, and overall kick ass in life. I'm your host, Gary Hayes, and I'm just a regular guy sharing the lessons that I've learned along the way to growing a seven-figure coaching business. And I hope you can learn from the mistakes that I've made, okay? So this is episode number 1, all right? And I first got to start with, this show is going to suck, okay? Will be the worst video you ever watch from me, okay? Here's why. Anytime you start something new, you're going to suck, okay? And I've been putting this off for a little bit, and I've had some anxiety around creating this podcast, which is weird because I do a lot of live videos, live speaking, and different things like that. It's not really a big deal for me, but it's just a little bit new. And I was just kind of like, oh, what do I talk about? What should I do? It's kind of just a new thing for me, but it's difficult. I'm talking to a camera, not talking to anybody, but I wanted to share that this video is going to suck, right? And anytime you start something new, you're going to suck at it. It doesn't matter whether it's starting a new business, trying to get fit, or just learn a new skill, you're going to suck. But if you keep doing that thing, you're going to start to suck less and less and less until eventually you become pretty good. Now, they say it takes 10,000 hours to master a skill, but believe it or not, it only takes 100 hours to become better than 99% of the other people at that one skill. So yes, 10,000 hours is like to become a master, whether you want to become a black belt in jiu-jitsu or like a master piano player or a professional golfer or something like that. You're going to have to put in 10,000 hours to become that master. But it only takes 100 hours to be better than 99% of other people at that skill. So if you practice piano 100 hours, you are now better than 99% of the rest of the population at that skill. 100 hours, that's 16 minutes a day. Okay, if you do that for a whole year, you practice piano 16 minutes a day for a whole year, you are now better than 99% of every single other people at that skill. Okay, so if you've been thinking about doing something new, take that fucking leap. Okay, just fucking do it. Okay. Now, wanted to share my story being episode number 1, share you a little bit about my journey and how I've went from being some broke ass farm kid to growing a $1 million coaching business. Okay. So for me, I grew up on a dairy farm. It was very rural. We milked cows, we drove tractors. We were just in that farm community. Okay. That's how I grew up. We spent a lot of time outdoors. And really what happened was I went into school, right? And the school system really failed me. Okay. I went and, I didn't learn much from school. It wasn't designed for me. I ended up just getting into this like whole popularity contest. I just wanted to be cool. And I really didn't learn much. I didn't really take much away from school, especially in like high school in my later years. And the school system really just overall failed me. Okay. The school system is designed to be like, okay, yeah, you got to get good grades, go to college and go to university. And that didn't really work out for me very well. Okay. So high school, I kind of fucked around a lot. I was just trying to be cool, which that's what I thought like you had to do. You had to fuck around to be cool because the nerds like who were studying like were nerds. They weren't cool. So that's kind of my mentality around it. And then ultimately I went on to go to college because they told me like, oh, you're like graduating, you need to pick something. I had no fucking clue what I wanted to do. So they're like, okay, well, you need to pick something. So I ended up picking and going into policing, went to go to college to go get a policing degree, believe it or not. And the only reason I did that is because I wanted to like drive fast cars and like shoot guns. Like I want to do car chase, high speed chases and shoot guns and stuff, which, once I got into it, I found out that was like the last thing from it. Because they get in there the first day, it's like, hey, 90% of being a cop is sitting in a parking lot doing paperwork. And I'm like, yay, right? And it's like, okay, this maybe isn't for me. So I ended up dropping out of that program. I didn't complete that program because, again, I was just not designed for school. I was not a person that was designed to sit in a classroom, listen to information, regurgitate that same information out on a test. So I ended up dropping out of that, and I ended up turning to the party scene. Okay. Now, when you hear me say turn to the party scene, he's like, oh, yeah, I was in the clubs doing cocaine and stuff. It's like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. It was the farm party scene. Okay. So the farm party scene is very different. There's no like heavy drugs involved. It's sitting in somebody's shop with a bunch of tractors and grease and everything. And you're drinking a ton of whiskey, beer, and smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a night. Okay, that was my life. That was the party scene that I had turned to. Okay. Now, not to say I didn't have a lot of fun doing some of that stuff, but what it did lead me to was become severely depressed to the point of attempting suicide. Okay. I just got married and I realized that I didn't or want to, or I can't do this to my wife. So I needed to get help. And I was so against pharmaceuticals. I still am. And I'm so grateful that I had that mentality. I've never really had a high trust in doctors. And I always kind of understood that the pharmaceutical, especially in terms of like antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds, is just really a way to get you hooked on long-term drugs for the rest of your life. So I was very, very grateful that I didn't go do that, because I could have easily just went and got prescribed something, numb me out for the rest of my life. And I'd probably have a very different story that I'd be sharing with you. I probably wouldn't even be sharing a story with you, because I'd still just be numbed out, watching Netflix somewhere with no ambition. So I'm really, really grateful that I didn't end up going to pharmaceuticals. But what I did instead was I started exercising and eating right. And believe it or not, I started feeling better. Okay. It was a matter of like 2 weeks. I was instantly feeling better. I was eating like good, healthy food. I wasn't filling myself with just junk shit food. I was exercising every single day. I was starting to feel more confident in my body. I was feeling better. And believe it or not, it helped. It started feeling better. And it was really the catalyst for me to really turn my life around. Okay. So I went and I quit my high paying job that I had at the time. I hated it. It wasn't very enjoyable. I actually sold semen. So I was a semen salesman, believe it or not. And I actually drove around to different farms and impregnated cows. Okay. Now, it's not what you think. Okay. It wasn't me impregnating the cows. I was actually had like drive a truck. We called it the semen wagon. And I had liquid nitrogen and I had all this frozen semen that I would drive around for farms, and I would artificially inseminate cows. Okay. It wasn't a horrible job, but I just really didn't enjoy it. It was just not for me. Okay. And again, I was just kind of stuck in that, like being a worker. Right. And that was really what the school system kind of like is designed for, right? It's designed to create workers, not to create like thinkers and doers. It wants followers, people that are just going to follow along, and they're just going to show up, shut up, and do what they're supposed to do. Okay. So anyway, I ended up quitting that job that I hated to join my wife and become a personal trainer. Okay. This was kind of like the next step for me was to become a personal trainer. And really the reason behind it is because I actually wanted to help other people the same way I'd help myself. I realized like pharmaceuticals was not the way to go. And I was very depressed, but me exercising and eating right helped me so much on my journey to like, and it was like so fast too. Like it was just a matter of weeks really where I just started to get that momentum. And then from there, it's just been like a constant, improvement journey for the last 10 years of my life. So my wife, she had just left the big box gym. Okay. She had just gotten out of a kinesiology degree. She decided to be a personal trainer at a big box gym. She didn't last very long there. She hated it. And she went out to be an independent trainer. She had a small office at a local gym where she could like train her own clients. And then when I became a trainer, I joined her and we went out on a limb to open up our own 1,000 square foot studio gym. Okay. And what I learned from that was that I fell in love with fitness even more. But more importantly, I fell in love with business. And that was really my true passion. And that was the school system never presented that as an option to me ever. Not anyone in my life said, hey, maybe you should be an entrepreneur. Maybe that's a path for you to go on. Maybe you should run your own business. Maybe you should create things. Maybe you should be a business owner. It was never presented to me. Okay. And that's really one of my biggest issues with the school system now is it's just designed to create sit down and shut up workers. And that's all it wants. Okay. And not even my parents being like running their own farm, like not even them did they encourage me to do that. Okay. It was just never even an option. I never even knew about it. But once I got into it and started doing it, I fell in love with it. Okay. So after 1 year, we did pretty good with that little studio, and we outgrew that 1,000 square foot studio and moved into a 3,300 square foot space, which was scary as fuck. Like it was so scary because we invested like a ton of money. We invested almost $100,000 built out this new fancy gym, and like we were all in. Okay. And after that, we thought the money would just start rolling in, but boy, were we wrong. Okay. Like that is not what happened. It was a fucking struggle. Okay. We hustled and grinded our way to make about, maybe like we were making like $10,000 to $15,000 a month. But anyone who's in the gym space or has a brick and mortar business, like they know that that's not that good. Okay. Like we had rent, we had a couple employees, we had equipment, we had upkeep, and utilities, hydro, and like all this stuff. And after all was said and done, like we were taking very little out of the business. Okay. We were funding our entire life on credit cards. We were working 7 days a week, from like 6 a.m. to like 9 p.m. pretty much every single day just to make ends meet. Okay. And then after 3 years of struggling, we're starting to make some traction. Okay. We were able to pay down some of our debt. We were starting to take money out of the business for ourselves. We were paying down credit cards. We were getting stuff paid down. We were getting some momentum back. Then in January of 2020, one of our trainers that we had up and quit and was stealing clients away from our gym. Okay. This was fucking devastating. Okay. It was a huge hit for us. Some of our biggest clients, like she was taking away, and we didn't know what to do. Like we were like, oh shit, we're in trouble. And we kind of picked ourselves up. We got into it. We're like, okay, we just got to keep on going. And we got into this place where we thought, like, is this it? Like, is this like the never ending train of just like struggling to get by and struggling to make ends meet? Is this our life? And we were kind of in a tough spot. And then on top of that, throw 2 months later, the whole freaking world shuts down and the government forces us to close because of the pandemic, or I should probably say plandemic, right? But anyway, now we had two choices, right? At this point, I could have said, oh, sweet, free vacation. Let's sit around, watch Netflix for 2 weeks. Or I could use all this time to get started in online coaching. Okay. And, this was something I'd always wanted to get into, but it was always bogged down by like the gym operations. I was like, I just don't have time to do that. Right. And another thing I remembered is a lot of people make huge leaps and bounds through these down times, through these recession times, like when the pandemic hit. And I'm thinking like back to the 2008 real estate collapses and stuff. There was a lot of people that made a ton of groundwork when everyone else was retracting. They were going all in and they made up so much ground on everybody else. So I thought, this is my moment. Okay. So we were to be shut down for 2 weeks, right? We all know how that went. And I thought, what better time than now, right? So I maxed out my credit cards. And remember, this was like 2 months after we had clients being stolen away from us. We were losing a lot of our revenue and a lot of our income, and we were in a tough spot. And now I didn't know like how to make our next mortgage payment. I didn't know, we paused all our gym memberships. We still had rent to pay. We still had utilities. We still had everything. And I didn't know where that money was coming from. Okay. But I maxed out my credit cards. I invested $10,000 and hired a coach that could teach me how to train clients online. Okay. So I just put a massive, massive bet on myself. And I was like, fuck, I'm making this water. And this was scary as fuck for me. But this was like my true burn the freaking boats moment. Okay. So I had to go all in. I was committed, right? I was 100% in, committed. There was no option mentality. Okay. Now, what I did was I spent the whole first few weeks of the pandemic. I was working from sun up to sundown. Okay. I didn't take a break. I didn't watch Netflix. I didn't watch a fucking Tiger King. Like I was all in, right? I'd be up till 12 a.m. messaging people and then up again, or I'd go to bed and then I'd be up again at like 6 a.m., and I'd be doing it all over again. Okay. I worked, I ate, and I slept. Okay. And that was it. And within 30 days, I had made $10,000. Okay. I was like, oh, okay. I could breathe. I got my investment back. Right. But I still wasn't out of the woods because I had bills coming due and I still owed a lot of money. So I continued to work and work and work and work. And over the next month, I went on and made $30,000. And I was like, oh shit, this is working. I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel good. I started to have that momentum back. I started to have that pep back. I was like, oh man, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling motivated. Right. And it was around this time that the government was actually letting us open our business back up. as long as we did all that PPE bullshit, like, I have the plexiglass with like 5 feet and, don't worry, the virus can't get around the glass. Like, oh no, all that stupid bullshit. So we had a decision to make. Do we open back up, invest all the money back into these stupid plexiglass barriers that did fucking nothing? And then so we could continue struggling to make ends meet with the gym that was making us miserable. Like, that's option one. Or we could close down permanently and focus on my new business that was actually bringing in money without all the overhead and without all the bullshit that comes with having the brick and mortar gym, especially through a troubling time such as the pandemic when the government's like forcing all this shit on us. So this way I'm like, hey, I'm pandemic proof. I'm with this, like, they can't come in and shut me down because I don't have an actual physical location. They can't tell me I need to have plexiglass barriers when I talk to somebody over a freaking Zoom call. Right. So, we ended up closing the gym permanently. Okay. We took option number 2. We talked to our landlord, we got out of our lease and went all in on the online business. And now I have to be very grateful. Our landlord was super, super helpful. We are actually in a 2-year lease still that we're technically obligated to. But he let us out. He was a super nice guy. I'll be forever grateful to them. And they actually ended up getting a new tenant in like within a month that was paying more. So it ended up working out for everybody. But I am super grateful that we were able to like just walk away from our lease. Now we did invest a ton of money into that facility that they obviously got to keep too. So it's like a win-win. But we just said, hey, you know what? We're walking away from it. It was making us miserable. We were struggling. And this new business was now thriving, or at least had the potential to thrive. So that's, where I started, went all in. I hired some employees to help with some of the tasks so I could focus on the things that matter most. And I continued to grow the business. And it wasn't long before I was generating over $50,000 a month. We had a team of people, I had a bunch of employees, and we were there helping run the day-to-day operations. So now I was actually, through a troubling time, I was providing virtual jobs for other people as well. So it was like super fulfilling for me, helped me feel better about myself. Like, any type of depression and things like that, I'm always comes back to fulfillment and joy. If you're not having fulfillment, you don't have purpose, you don't have that joy, like that's where we start falling into depressions. So I was feeling fulfilled. I was helping other people, helping employ other people during a difficult time. Plus, the business was thriving. I was supporting my family, starting to give them the life that I wanted to give them. So then at the end of 2020, we realized that the world was not going in a good direction. Okay. We just had the freest and most fair election of all time. Right. And the world was going to shit. They're closing everything down again for some new variant, and we just had enough. So we sold our house, packed all of our shit up, and moved 5 hours away to get away from the city. We bought a 3.5 acre hobby farm, and we started a homestead. That way we could become more self-sufficient. Okay. We have, we got some chickens, we got goats, and we've been doing all of our own vegetables. We grow most of our own food. We just wanted to get away from all the government bullshit and really just be self-sufficient for ourselves, provide our own food, provide for ourselves completely without any type of government manipulation or government control. So now the way it works is my wife now is actually a full-time homesteader and stay-at-home mom to our kids. Okay. We've chosen to homeschool our kids. She takes care of that. And I run the business. So we have really, really good roles. We have a really good family dynamic. Where we're both raising the kids. She's homeschooling. She's taking care of the kids, taking care of the gardens and the animals. And I run the business. And, since we moved here, like I've grown the business now to doing over $1 million per year for multiple years in a row now. And we're still growing. But this is really for me, just scratching the surface, right? I'm doing this podcast to help document my journey to becoming the best I can be, not just in terms of money and fitness, but being the best dad, the best husband, building awesome relationships, because I want to have a kick-ass life, right? And this podcast is a way to document my journey to getting to 8, 9, and who knows, maybe even 10 figures, right? That it's not out of the cards for me. I'm trying to think big. I want to think bigger outside of my own comprehension, and $1 billion. That's freaking crazy. That's freaking nuts, man. But it's what gets me excited these days. So really for this podcast, I just really hope that people are able to get a lot of advice and learn from my mistakes. And, people that are a little bit further behind from me can learn from my experiences that I've had, and not make the same mistakes I've made, so they don't have to learn the hard way like me. And really for me, like, the sky is the limit, and I'm on the way there. So the choice you need to make is, are you coming with me? That's all I want to ask. Now, for me, I'm not running ads on this show. I don't plan to ever run ads on this show. That's not why I'm doing this. I just want to share, document my journey, if nothing else, just for me to go back and look on. But like I said, I really hope that you guys get value from this. So if you did get anything out of this show, if you thought it was, enjoyable, it helped shift your perspective, helped inspire you by sharing my story and some of my struggles that I've gone through, to maybe take that fucking leap, like I was talking about, then please, I just ask, share it with a friend, help spread the word. It would mean the freaking world to me. Also, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe, hit the bell to get notified when my next episode is live. Again, really mean the world to me if you could subscribe, share the show, do anything. Now, if you hated the show and you thought it sucked, which I told you at the start it was going to suck, so maybe not quite that, but if you really thought it was terrible, don't share it. Don't listen to me anymore. Like, that's cool. But if you did enjoy it and you got something out of it, all I ask is that you subscribe, hit the bell, and please share the show. Okay. So I'm going to leave it on this. Take that fucking leap. Remember, the first time you do anything, it's going to be awful. It's going to suck. But if you do it enough times, you'll eventually suck so little that you'll be good. Okay. I'll leave you at that. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. And we'll see you next time.